lot of points scored with these two very fast-playing teams. What do you got next?
Next, we're going to go down to Houston, actually.
Houston.
Kind of seeing them last year, they finished 7-5, led by, Major Applewhite. And when you think of Houston, you have to think of the big man up front, Ed Oliver. Expect to be a top 5 pick in the draft. He's just an absolute menace up front. He's just going to create havoc on that defensive line for them. But one of the players that I'm most intrigued by on that team is De'Ara King.
Mm-hmm.
He was a wide receiver at the start of last year, and then they started moving him into the Wildcat. And then I believe it was the last 5 games he took over the starting role at quarterback. And he's actually their leading returner in passing yards, receiving yards, and rushing yards.
Yeah,
so that's one player I'm really excited to kind of see on the field.
They were pretty good last year, too. I mean, they weren't as great as they were 2 years ago, obviously, with Coach I'm drawing a blank here. But anyways, they were awesome then. They beat Oklahoma and everything. And then now they're well, obviously, kind of came down a little bit, but this could be definitely an up year for them. What's their total at?
7.5.
7.5. Nice. Okay, cool.
Juiced heavy towards the over.
Are you going to go towards are you going to hit that over?
I'm kind of looking at the schedule now. So they have, Arizona, the second week of the season. They open up with Rice. They have a nice game against Texas Tech as well, which I think will be a fun little one to watch. But kind of looking at the schedule, they have 4 really easy wins, and then they have a few toss-up games. It's another one that I lean heavy towards the over, but not enough for me to fully fall in love.
Yeah, I think the Arizona game is going to tell you what they're really made of this year, and we'll just have to kind of see. It's a good thing that they got some good on their schedule though, because Arizona is looked at as being a pretty good team this year, probably top 30, top 40 team in most people's power ratings. So good thing that they have that to help them out in the schedule if something kind of good gets rolling for them.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting game when you have De'Ara King running around on one side and then Khalil Tate on the other side, just kind of creating messes for defense.
Oh, absolutely. So I'm guessing South Florida should be next, right?
Yes, absolutely. And then that's another coach, though, that I can see not staying in the AAC for long, actually. Charlie Strong.
Yeah.
Came over from Texas, but I think that's another area where he's just going to get plucked out of that job sooner or later.
Yeah, kind of interesting. Tom Herman, that's who I was thinking of, goes from Houston to Texas, and Charlie Strong goes from Texas to the American Athletic Conference. So that was kind of that was interesting. But he had a pretty good year, man. But the problem with South Florida, they are 125th in returning production this year. And
most of that production belonged to their quarterback Flowers last year. He was a special player truly for them and did a lot for them.
Yeah, and I wonder if they have somebody to somewhat replace some of that production, right? 38%.
Blake Barnett, he's actually started at Alabama, then went to Arizona State. He's going to get the first crack at the job. All kind of reports are pointing to him. And then they have a Florida Gators running back transferring in as well, Jordan Conkright, I believe his name is. He'll be competing for carries along with Elijah Mack. And they're returning an offensive line, that has three out of 5 starters from last year. But one of the most intriguing things about this team is they're really physical on the outside. They have a bunch of big wide receivers.
Okay.
Their main receiver, Tyree McCants, he's 5'11", 230, very physical, and they have a tight end who has the size to be an NFL tight end. He was just very underutilized last year.
So it looks to me that South Florida might be a little deceptive here. They lost all that production, but it was because of Flowers. But they might have a solid team. They returned 3 linemen. That's something to look at against the spread possibly. When they start showing up, I'm very excited to see how this is going to turn out with them. So definitely going to keep my eye on them. Who we got next?
Next, I was going to jump down to Temple, actually.
Temple. Isn't that your team?
Yeah, it's a team I actually root for and attend a lot of home games for, yes.
Awesome. So what, when I looked at Temple, I looked at they had a interesting game, I think, against Maryland, and there's probably a few other hard ones on there. So let's break down Temple, man. What's their season win total at?
They're set at 6.5.
6.5?
Yeah.
That's pretty optimistic.
And in terms of the schedule, they do have Maryland. They're going to Maryland. They're also going to Boston College as well. They have to go to UCF. A lot of tough road games for them. And they have to go to Navy as well. Ooh. And Houston.
Wow. Yeah, they definitely have a lot of tough road games here. And Buffalo, Buffalo is an up-and-coming MAC team. And
it's a tricky one.
I'm high on them, too. Woo! So we got Nova. That's a win. Then Buffalo. That's a swing game. Maryland's probably a loss, right? I mean, everyone's high on Maryland this year. Tulsa should be maybe a win. That
should be a win.
Yeah, that should be a win, I think. Boston College is a loss. East Carolina.
It's a win.
That's a win. Navy is probably a loss. Cincinnati is swing. Would you say swing?
I would say the Navy game's a swing as well as the Cincinnati game.
Oh, okay. The Navy game's a swing. The Navy, maybe Navy takes a little step back. Central Florida's a loss. Houston's probably a loss. South Florida's a swing. Then UConn's a win.
Yeah.
That's three for sure wins, 3 swings. Man, yeah, I almost think Temple. I would almost lean to the under there, but you know best, man, about your team. What do you think?
Call me a homer, but they bring back a lot of talent after like an up and down year. They opened up the season last year in Jeff Collins' first season. Mm-hmm. Didn't really get their footing until about mid-season. They got blown out against Notre Dame. They had a game-winning field goal essentially win against Villanova, a tight win against UMass, and they got absolutely blown out by USF on primetime, which was tough.
Yeah.
And then they replaced their quarterback, Logan Marchie, with Frankie Newtile, or, as he's known around here, Frankie Juice. And the offense really seemed to find its way with him. And they get back Raquel Armstead. He's a really good running back for them who, suffered a lot of injuries last year. And I think their defense is going to be improved. That's one of the reasons they brought in Jeff Collins is, he led great defenses for the Gators. So I'm really excited to see what he's able to do.
Yeah, Temple had averaged about 25 points a game and gave up about 25 points a game last year. And they had that tough game against Notre Dame right off the bat last year, lost 16-50 or whatever it was. And then they had their typical schedule where they win 7 games, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
7 and 6.
7 and 6, yeah. So yeah, they're returning production's kind of average here, but if you're high on them, I will not be touching that under. So I appreciate that advice there. It sounds like they might have something in the works over at Temple this year. I'm really excited to see that Maryland Temple game. I'll tell you that. That's going to tell me a little bit more about Maryland, I think, too.
I'm excited for it to come to Philly next year.
I bet. What do we have next?
I was going to say Navy's probably a good area to go next.
All right, let's go right to Navy. What do we got for them on a season win total? I'm looking, and I have 7 is what I have.
I have 7, yeah.
7 juice to the over is what I have. So triple option Navy, What do we?
Yeah, they're bringing back 2,000-yard rushers at quarterback, actually, with Malcolm Perry and Zach Abbey. Mm-hmm. Abbey started, a good portion of the games last year, and then Perry kind of took over, and pretty much it's his job going forward this year. The one thing they do is they, as you know, control the clock really well, which helps them against some of these high-powered offenses in the AAC. So the key for their success is going to be, keeping their offense on the field and their defense, on the sidelines.
Yeah, what a hell of an Army-Navy game last year that spread against Virginia dropped after that, and then Virginia takes them out 49-7. I just didn't think they showed up last year, So for Navy, schedule-wise, they usually schedule pretty good,
Yeah, they open up the year with Hawaii, which should be a win.
Mm-hmm.
And they go to Memphis, which should be a loss. Then they have Lehigh, SMU, Air Force. They do play Notre Dame this season. They have to go to UCF as well. And then, of course, they end the year with Army.
Yeah, it's not that bad of a schedule, really. I think that obviously Notre Dame, the neutral game they play with them is tough. Central Florida's tough. But if I'm looking, I was thinking they're only returning 50% production roughly. They rank 120, I think 4 and 121. And so that's pretty low. But at the same time, it's Navy. They kind of do that all the time. They return, they bring in guys, bring them out, teach them the triple option, do the best they can on defense, it seems, and try to win their key games. But the schedule is almost a little bit too easy for me to take anything on the under there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, definitely leaning towards the over on this one.
Yeah. I'd say so too. There's just too many easy games. Lehigh and Hawaii. Those are wins for sure. Tulsa should be a win. Cincinnati's kind of a push. Notre Dame's a loss. Houston's probably a loss, but the Temple,
Tulane, I think, is a win for them as well.
Yeah, Air Force should be a win, and SMU. So Navy midshipmen running the triple option. We'll be keying in on some of their lines when they come out. And that should bring who's next for you?
SMU.
They had a big guy go to the draft, big receiver.
Oh, Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton, man. He was a top pick too. So, it's going to be tough for them to lose him, but at the same time, they still return 80% of their defense and 58% of their offense. What do you think about this team?
I think their strength is definitely in their quarterback, Ben Hicks. He's coming off kind of a career best year. I think he has 55 career touchdowns, and he's going into a good system. Sonny Dykes is taking over in SMU, and he's going to bring his air raid offense and kind of do some explosive things. And they're returning a 1,000-yard rusher in Xavier Jones, which is, excellent for them to have 1,000-yard rusher, even though he's going to be used a little bit differently now in the Sonny Dykes system.
Gotcha. So, yeah, so they're looking pretty good. Now, their defense wasn't that good, so they're returning 80% of it. They gave up 36.7 points, and they scored 37.8 points a game last year. Pretty good rushing, 4.93 yards per run on average. This team, was always an offensively charged team. Now, if the question I think is big is this defense going to actually get 6 or 7 points better? But right now, what's their season win total at?
Yeah, just one quick point to make too. I think obviously Sonny Dykes realized that he's more of an offensive guy, and he did bring in Kevin Kane to take on the defensive coordinator role. Mm-hmm. And he did a fantastic job kind of turning around the defense for NIU, and I think they should improve. I don't know if it'll be a drastic improvement in year one, but I do see them getting a little bit better on defense.
5.5 is their season win total, and you can see them playing TCU and at Michigan. So that kind of took it down a little bit, I would say, right?
Yeah.
And so they just have to beat, they have to beat 5 games on their schedule. Well, they got Houston Baptist, so that's a win, all right? But they got to win at least 5 other games to go over that total.
I see maybe only three wins on this schedule. Maybe 4. It's definitely one that I'm really loving the under on for sure.
Under 5.5. Well, that the 5.5 tells you a story there. Then it seems like the returning defense, when a bad team returns a defense, it's bad. When a good team returns